Beyond.
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 That's right. That's the name of the show. It's Beyond. Welcome to Beyond, episode 528. My name is Max Scoville, and I'm joined today by Brian Altano.
Are you reading that off the paper? You don't need
No, I'm just rustling the paper. Thanks for pointing out one of my many insecurities. Andrew Goldfarb.
Hey, Max. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm Andrew. I said nice wrong, and I ruined my own bad joke.
We belong on this show together. And Casey DeFritas.
Hey guys, what's up?
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We are going to be talking about Monster Hunter a little bit, which you have been playing a bit.
Yeah.
That was one of the many huge games that's coming out this week, but there's a bunch of other stuff I want to touch on first. First things first, I want to point out that you have a Pokemon shirt and Andrew has a Super Mario Kart shirt. Brian does not have a Nintendo shirt on, but
no, but there's a cat in front of me.
There is a cat in front of you. That's sort of like a Nintendo icon. But so something popped up this week that is sort of crazy. They're making these things that are basically PlayStation Amiibo. They're called Totaku.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't do anything.
No.
Yeah, they don't. They don't have any functionality or anything, and they're kind of they're like pretty arbitrary characters, with the exception of like Kratos is obviously a game that got that God of War game's coming out soon. The rest of them are just kind of a mix of legacy stuff and more modern stuff.
So like let's just run through them really quick. We got Kratos from the new God of War with his beard, Crash Bandicoot, Sackboy, Heihachi from Tekken. He's the one with the funny hair, one of the many. Parappa the Rapper, Hunter from Bloodborne, and the Physar FX 350, which is the Wipeout car spaceship thing.
Yep.
But yeah, they don't have NFC. They don't have any of the chips in them that make the Amiibo do their magic thing. But they're pretty obviously like, hey, it's PlayStation Amiibo, basically.
It's small collector. I mean, they're $10 too.
Yeah.
So
they're $10. They are GameStop exclusive in the US. You can get them on. I guess they're made by ThinkGeek, which is owned by GameStop. How do you guys feel about these?
I love them.
I think they're really cool just to have on your desk. Like, I think there isn't, especially something like Bloodborne and even Dark Souls, like there haven't been a lot of merchandise for those other than like a really expensive Figma that's coming out. So in that way, it's nice. I'm weirded out that they wouldn't do like Nathan Drake. They wouldn't do, Ellie with the tattoo from The Last of Us Part 2. Like,
I think they'll get there.
Hopefully, because I want to see them do more. I think Nintendo has been really good with Amiibo about using them to almost promote what's next and tying into stuff.
I mean, well, that's also because they do have like the chips do things, like they'll do, use this to unlock this, and it's kind of, I mean, that makes sense, from that collector standpoint. They're like, get the new Chibi Robo game, and it comes with a Chibi Robo Amiibo, and in that sense, it makes sense. But these aren't actually like tied to any particular games. I mean, aside from any new games, so I think it makes sense that they're doing a little bit greatest hits and a little bit kind of older stuff. I would be very surprised if we didn't get a Nathan Drake. But yeah, it's also, it gets tricky. You mentioned that you wanted a Spider-Man. I don't know how to tell you this. There are a lot of Spider-Man toys out there already.
Not that one. Not that cool new Insomniac suit.
Yeah. We'll probably get a Marvel
Checkmate.
Legends of that. But I mean, it gets complicated when it's any kind of third-party stuff. I'm sort of surprised that Crash Bandicoot is in here, though he is like the original, PlayStation mascot. He is owned by Activision, I guess, but. No, it's cool that we're getting some little trinkets to play with.
Yeah, I pre-ordered the Bloodborne one immediately, and I'm gonna get the Figma too because it's nice, but that's gonna be like a $90 to $100 figure.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like sort of small scale stuff that you can get, on the way at a GameStop that isn't a Funko Pop, that kind of has its own look to it. I think that's perfectly awesome for PlayStation fans to grab something that's $10, $11 on the way out of the store.
The Bloodborne one is a standout to me too. Like that's the one I want.
It's also like it looks cool. It's like the pose from the title screen basically, which is awesome. Or if you just turn him around, you just look at his back all day, Right?
Okay, so
I definitely want to see them in person and see what the quality is like, because some of these, I mean, they're modeled after such detailed characters. Like a lot of the Nintendo characters are just, they're like, like the Palico there, they're just very non-detailed, and but these guys are much more realistic.
Well, the cool thing about these is
still
that
$10.
They were not sort of designed, they didn't sort of write themselves into a corner the way Amiibo did. If you look at the first line of Amiibo, they're all based on Smash Brothers character poses, which were ostensibly not created to be figures.
Yeah.
So what you end up having is a bunch of characters who have like Diddy Kong who's sitting on like ice. Or like Link, who's got that weird pea stick going down the side of him. And the only one of these that you see something like sort of clear sticking out is the Physar FX 350 ship from Wipeout. And that's because that's like a floating, hovering craft. So yeah, they're really well designed so far in that they don't have like rods of clear ice going.
You're right. You're totally right about that.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll sell out like Amiibo did?
I think some will.
No?
I don't think they will ever sell out. I think they're really cool. I think part of it with Amiibo is like there's whole like speedrunning categories for Zelda around having this Amiibo because of the functionality. Like these are just really, I genuinely think these are cool, cheap collectibles, and it kind of introduces a really nice new like low tier end to buy. But I don't think they'll sell out.
I think you completely underestimate the approach that gamers take to collecting.
Yeah,
maybe
it's kind of scary. And you saw this with Amiibo, where they're like, "I found a Samus with 2 left arms. It's $160,000 on my eBay."
There's like Amiibo that people were importing. Were importing from Japan.
Well, the Monster Hunter Stories Amiibo.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And so you look at stuff like even like Jigglypuff or like Rosalina, characters who aren't like fan favorites, but like people, kind of like them. They were hunting those down. They were camping outside of Target. Yo, you got that Rosalina? Like people go crazy for little figurines like this. I'm a little bummed that they don't have any specific functionality with PlayStation. But then again, Toys to Life stuff outside of Amiibo has all failed.
Yep.
So. And figurines have been going strong since, I don't know, the dawn of man.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't include like, I don't know, a code for a free avatar theme.
Yeah,
that seems
that
like
would be
the
cool.
easiest way to like, hey, here's an avatar buddy icon, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what's odd about them is that they're not totally uniform in like their packaging, like the colors are all over the place, but also the figures themselves. Like if you look at the way the like Mr. Game & Watch figure looks, how he's like a flat toy, and then you look at Parappa. Parappa's like he's 3 times as thick.
Yeah.
It's just weird. So
it's kind of odd.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I'm kind of reserve my judgment until I actually see these in person, because they could completely come out and just be like the worst, sloppiest paint ops and like just like flash all over the plastic and stuff. But I am amazed that Nintendo's managed to make such like high-end Amiibo at this point. Like they look great. I'm glad they're still around. I hope that PlayStation does more of this stuff too. And maybe get some, maybe some third-party stuff. It'd be so cool to have like a little figurine of like Metal Gear Solid 1 Snake with like the low poly.
Oh god, yeah.
I think that would be awesome. I want them. I hope these do well because I want more of them. I think it's the beginning of a cool line. I love that they're like keeping it under $10 is like that really easy.
What would you?
Cute gifts.
Yeah,
totally.
I see one on the way. I was like, oh, that's my friend's favorite character. And
What would you guys want that isn't on this list, Casey? Go.
Monster Hunter, but
that's not fair because they already have like Gashapon here. They have Amiibo.
Yeah.
And I broke your toy.
No, it's okay.
Andrew, what would you want besides Persona?
Oh dang. I think
Aloy.
I really would like a nice Nathan Drake. I think that there's been like really tall ones and really cute little chibi ones, but I would like just like a cute little Amiibo size one.
Yeah,
or
Casey
a
said
solid.
Aloy. That's a good one too.
Yeah, Aloy would be great. Oh yeah, why? I'm
one of the
really surprised they
Watchers.
didn't make Aloy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Watcher. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Man, that's such a good idea.
Yeah.
I want some of the monsters from Bloodborne. I'm replaying that game now, and it's just like
Yeah.
the boss designs are just stunning, and they like. I think with those you'd have to have a bunch of like weird ice and P rods and stuff like that because like they're just so all over the place.
If Bloodborne had come out in like 2000 through 2003, we would 100% have a line of McFarlane toys of like this god awful thing
Of like the
that
orphan
game.
cost with like all the little things around it.
It's that pig with a prolapsed anus that vomits
no.
poison at you. Great. Anyway, on the world's worst segue, there's some rumors about Kingdom Hearts 3. None of us here are Kingdom Hearts 3 experts, so please don't yell at us. We're just going to go through this really quick. But rumors that we're going to see Monsters Inc. in there.
Yeah, there's like actually photos of that world, and so they look. They could be. I mean, they're probably Photoshop, but maybe
could
they're
be
real.
VR chat screenshots. I don't.
It would be. Yeah, seriously. There is also already a Pixar world confirmed. Like we know we're getting Toy Story, and then the other ones from Disney Animation. We know we're getting Tangled and Big Hero 6. So it's like another Pixar world makes them really heavy on like modern 3 animated franchises. But maybe.
And then there's Shibuya from The World Ends With You. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
So
which would be cool.
yeah, and Neku was already in Dream Drop Distance.
Right.
So the main character from that game was already in a Kingdom Hearts game.
Oh, that makes
cool.
a lot
We
of sense,
haven't
yeah.
had, I don't think
the
there was
world
a full
has been.
world, and that would be awesome if we had a modern representation of Tokyo in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, like in HD and
Yeah,
looking. Yeah, that would be really
so
cool.
awesome, and yeah,
Yeah,
And then,
that'd be awesome.
excited for The World Ends With You.
D23 Japan.
So the rumor is that this is all coming. That this news is coming in Q1.
Okay, I was going to say like,
So-
wait, 1, they have a D23 in Japan, and 2, that's going to be a playable level in this game.
So that's sometime in like mid to late February, and so I
Right.
think that is just the next event people think could be where we'll get more news.
That makes sense.
I feel like release date. So like, there's a rumor that it's a release date towards the end of this year. If they're really going to come out in 2018, which I'm still skeptical on, that timing kind of works. But I feel like E3 or TGS is a way more likely Kingdom Hearts drop point. Although if it is coming out in September, then obviously it needs to be way before TGS. So we'll see.
And then they're also saying maybe Frozen at E3. which makes sense.
Makes a lot of that's
Frozen
like Frozen second only to Star Wars, right? It's like that's the biggest.
That is their money printing machine. That's not even like a machine. That's like a gun that shoots money into their own faces. It's weird. And then Noctis and Lightning, which yeah, that makes sense. You know, those are the kind of biggest, most iconic Final Fantasy characters of the last few generations.
Yeah, in the same way that we got, you know, Final Fantasy 7 characters back in the day. Like now, those are the only recent, you know, those are the only recent gen new Final Fantasy protagonists.
Right.
Yeah, and then they're again saying September release date, which I mean, yeah, I feel like this game has been kind of under wraps for long enough. I mean, I don't remember when this was announced. Like
100 million years ago.
Yeah, I don't.
As dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yeah.
I remember watching a trailer when I was in high school.
God, yeah.
So
It's been a very long time. And like there have been so many spin-offs and they're like up to the collections were like from 1.5 to 2.5 to 2.8. like they're inching their way towards 3.
That's gonna be nuts.
but some of those aren't actually in between 2 and 3.
Right, exactly. Yeah, those are essentially just recatching you up so you can be ready.
Yeah. Weird piece of news. They announced they're doing some PlayStation Nikes. These are the PG2s. It's a Paul George collaboration. He's a basketball player who has already done one collaboration with Nike. And I don't think that was a console exclusive at all. But these are like PlayStation themed. They got kind of like purplish hues. They have light up tongues. You know, like some sweet LA lights. And these are coming out on February 10th. Limited edition, of course, and they're $110, which is.
I did not catch the power button on the inside of the tongue. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I mean, none of us are particularly like sneakerheads, Brian. You kind of are, but it's you stick mostly to kind of like dunks and like retro stuff.
I wear a lot of Jordans.
Yeah.
I don't really wear a lot of like these are actually for playing basketball shoes. But these are cool. They're not really for me. I think they're
got a Zoom airbag.
Yeah, if you're highly athletic or you're a kid, I think these would be great. I think they're a little over the top otherwise, but yeah, they're kind of cool. They have that like 80s movie theater carpeting look to the side of them.
Yeah.
I love the around the laces that is like the PlayStation colors and like on the sides they have like the actual like button logos and stuff. Like they have like really cool
I think they
features.
look cool. They don't look too gaudy or too in your face. Like this is PlayStation. I think they just
for
look
sure.
neat.
I kind of love that we're at a point where there is enough like sort of nerd culture. Like we got those Vans that look like retro, like classic Nintendos. Yep. I went on like the Vans website and you can customize your own like high tops on there, and I was trying to make it so it looked like a Super Nintendo, like different shades of purple. And you can't quite get it right with the number of grays, but I would love it if we got some like high tops that look like an original PlayStation 1. Just
right.
Because that's like, those are colors that don't look too offensive as a shoe.
Yeah, I hope these sell really well and they do more collaborations with Nike. Because I love PlayStation, I love Nike. These are just not really for me.
Yeah.
But I hope they do more like street shoes.
I think they look really cool. I just probably wouldn't wear them.
Yeah, totally.
I think Nike owns Converse.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some Converse.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
same.
that's true.
They
I'd
should
wear
do some
those.
like hyper realistic versions of Crash Bandicoot sneakers. Yeah.
Either way,
They're
like
covered in smashed tangerines or whatever.
this
Wumpa
kind of goes
fruit.
well with our first story in terms of like I really like that they're opening up their branding and that they're making more. They're making more cool stuff, more merchandise for PlayStation fans. Because for the longest time, we didn't really have a whole lot of stuff to work with.
Yeah, and that's why I like that range too. Like Tataku is $10. These are over $100.
Yeah, these are 110.
So they're making it kind of for everybody to, there's the impulse purchases, there's the collector purchases. I really like that.
These will also either sell out in 5 seconds or you'll be able to buy 20 pairs a day for the rest of your life. It could go either way.
I feel like it'll be the first. I
think
feel
so?
like it'll be limited. Yeah. I mean, it's that weird thing of like look at what Nintendo's done with like Uniqlo and all that stuff. Like those are a little more, and even like the shirts from the Urban Outfitters thing. Like they have these partnerships that are sort of a little more like low, like they're just available and you can walk into any store and buy them. I feel like when you aim for like collector stuff, that's like a whole different audience.
Totally.
And that's totally that gaming audience you were talking about.
I feel so bad for sneakerheads too, because like they have like, it's one thing to be like, oh, there's a limited number of this thing, and then you get into like, oh, but my feet are this size, and it's like, oh, so it's a fraction of that limited number that's going to fit you in general.
Yeah.
That
Clothes
really
collecting.
sucks if you have a common foot size.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not fair. You inherently going after peg warmers or short cases, whatever. Anyway, so Resident Evil 2 20th anniversary is coming up. I figure we could talk about this. There was a tweet that Kamiya put out about the remake. He said, "I heard that my friend is directing Resident Evil 2 remake. Let's trust him and wait for new information." Winky face. And when asked for further comment, he said, "Blocked." And then no, not really. But I love that dude on Twitter. He's great. But yeah, remake was announced in 2015, which was a while ago. So it's 20th anniversary. Makes sense. What do you guys make of this game?
I love Resident Evil 2. I mean, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, Resident Evil remake that came out for Nintendo GameCube and then later to everything else was for the very longest time one of my favorite remakes of any video game ever.
I mean, there are people who call it the best Resident Evil game ever.
Yes, yeah, hands down. I think it was the last true sort of attempt to totally nail that survival horror style, and that's sort of cheating because it's based on the original Foundation, which is one of the first truly definitive survival horror games. But it added a whole bunch of new stuff, and this game has never really truly gotten that treatment. And we heard about this in 2015. This is a game that when it first came out was revolutionary, and looking at it now, it's actually sort of comical. But I still think there's a lot of creepy, scary stuff about this thing that makes it really stand out in the sort of sea of survival horror that came since. It's a kind of over the top game, right? It's about like Raccoon City. It sort of moves the needle outside of just the original Trevor mansion that the games took place in, and shows you the police station and the streets, and you go into the gun shop and like old diners and stuff like that. And it totally expands the scale of what this universe is all about.
Like the Arkham City to the Arkham Asylum that is the first
Yeah. And it's like the cool thing about this game is that the core environment of that police station is really fun and really interesting to navigate, even though it doesn't make any sense for cops to have to use like a lion's eye door to get into the jail in the basement. It's a little ridiculous. But yeah, I'm hoping that something comes from this. All the Resident Evil social media accounts recently have changed their logos to the original Resident Evil font, and I don't know what this means. I don't know if we're going to get Resident Evil 2 in the Resident Evil 7 engine, if we're going to get a straight up remake like we did with the original remake.
They said so they announced this, it was like, I forget if it was at Gamescom, but it was sometime like in late summer a few years ago. And in interviews since then, like they talked about it was a full remake, not just up-res. Like they talked about re-recording all the dialogue. Like they've gone over several times that they're going to do something significant with it, probably more along the lines of actually like our remake.
Right.
But like I don't know where it is, because it's definitely been a couple of years. Like this to me feels like something they could out of the blue one day announce, or they hold it for E3. Like it feels like it could totally go either way.
Yeah, the Resident Evil 7 announcement happened at E3 was it last year? Were they?
No, it was 2 years ago.
No, I think it was last year.
No, because it came out last year in January. So it was.
Oh, right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm all screwed up. But I remember like we had known about that kitchen demo for a long time, and then we saw the new trailer for Resident Evil and didn't know it was Resident Evil until it said Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Which was really smart. And I don't know if that's the route they'll go this time around. But yeah, this is just a very cherished game that hasn't really held up well. And that's the thing about like old video games is that it's hard to go back to some of them.
I mean, we talk a lot about this on the show, but like there's that thing where in games, number 2 is frequently better than the first one. Like unlike movies where that's not usually the case. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Nintendo's weird because it's like, oh, well, the second Mario is like it's a fake Mario, and the second Zelda is like a total like departure.
Castlevania 2 is weird. Contra 2 is weird.
But I would say with more recent games, like the kind of the second iteration frequently like
Watch
improves
Dogs,
on the first.
Assassin's Creed.
Exactly. Uncharted. But in this case, like Resident Evil 2, I remember when that
Elf
came out.
Bowling.
And you had to go and like, God damn it. Resident Evil, they put out like Resident Evil, and then there was like the director's cut, which I forget what was even different there, but like I remember those like very early days of PlayStation where like the games first came in like those big like letterbox shaped cases with the cardboard thing and the plastic.
Yeah, there was something. First of all, I mean, the box arts for those games were pretty like spooky looking, but there was something sort of like grimy about all the packaging and design that sort of felt like your friend had come back from like a weird punk rock store that sold Japanese horror videotapes. And like,
but then
like,
I mean,
oh, okay,
by the
what
time
the hell is this?
RE2 rolled around, that was kind of hitting the stride of that first generation, and I remember like that was one of the first ones where you're like, oh, they could be on more than one disc. Like that's nuts. And I remember really liking the first one or the second one just because it was like the sense of place that it had was really cool. And there's that like initial sort of car accident, and you're like there's like a burning truck, and you're like there's zombies coming at you. And it did that thing that games I feel like were much better at doing back in the day of just sort of throwing you in and like being like, swim, go on.
Yep.
Sink, swim, whatever, I don't care. You bought me. I'm here in your house. You got to beat me.
Yeah, I went back about 2 months ago. I was on sort of a survival horror kick after The Evil Within 2, and I tried to replay Remake on PS4. And it's one of those things where I kind of wish I hadn't, because it doesn't look as good as I remember it back in the old GameCube era. But it's also like the tank controls
were so bad.
It was there are people that love them. I played that game probably start to finish 20 times. Like I was able to do it in under, I think it's like if you do it in under 3 hours, you get the infinite rocket launcher and all that. I beat that game like top to bottom in every way you possibly could. And I just couldn't go back last year. It was just too much. So I'm hoping that this goes in the direction of Resident Evil 7, where it's either like first or third person and you can explore this entire city like that.
I mean, you nailed it. It would be really cool if it was in that engine. It's a really weird time for stuff like this because like we're what, 3 weeks away from Shadow of the Colossus also. And that's another game that like I am so like, I have such fond memories of playing that game, but I worry that the camera stuff, the control stuff, like I hope it made like a major difference with it and have kind of rethought stuff and made it a little more modern, because if they try and stick to exactly what it was, I worry that it's actually kind of not accessible now.
We've talked about that like on this show a bunch of times, the sort of concept of like George Lucasing something and taking something sacred and bringing it up to speed for modern audiences and then losing something along the way. And I worry about that because there are old school, and that's the weird thing, right? Resident Evil specifically is such a like fascinating fractured fan base. Sorry for the alliteration there. In that,
Dream
like,
drop Dristons.
in that some people are there for the old school sort of tank controls, and others came in for Resident Evil 4, and others after that, 5 and 6, and now 7, which is a first-person like survival horror / VR game.
Yeah, if that was your first Resident Evil and you went back to play Resident Evil, like, if you've only played Resident Evil 7 and then RE2 Remake comes out and you play that and you're going to be like, oh, this is very different.
It's very different than like movies. Like if your first Star Wars movie was The Force Awakens and then you went back and watched like Empire Strikes Back, you'd be like, oh, there's a lot here that I love. I understand like the thread here.
Yeah.
With video games, it's so different.
That's so key because with movies, a movie is a movie. And I mean, it might be, weird differences in sound or special effects, but the actual like functional thing of sitting down and looking at it and paying attention, understanding what happens, that's fine. That doesn't change. But with games, there's a technical level where, like, I mean, you go back and you play, like, it's weird to think about it, but the standard thing of twin stick first person shooter controls wasn't standard for a really long time. Like, you try to sit down and play something like GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, and you're like, what are these buttons doing? Like, what?
I mean, even Resident Evil 4, which is a third-person survival horror action game, a la Gears of War and the games that came after it, even that doesn't control like a dual-stick game. When people play that for the first time, they forget that you can't walk and shoot at the same time in that game. Right. It's like stop and shot or pop and whatever that is.
I mean,
stupid name for it.
We'll get to
stop
this
and shot, pop and shot.
We'll get to this in a second with the next thing, but I think it's interesting that can go in the other way. Like, I think there are games that have been sort of inaccessible that can be opened up with sequels too, and I guess that's Resident Evil 7 also actually.
But I like that because games are such an iterative medium, and I don't think there's much wrong with doing a remake of something. I'm excited about Shadow of the Colossus because I missed the boat on that the first time around, and I mean playing the HD version felt like kind of just, I don't know, it felt like kind of late to the party, and
it's so weird because when that version came out, it was like, wow, this is gorgeous, and that wasn't even that long ago. That was like 10 years ago, less than that.
And then we played the remake at PSX, and it's just like stunning.
Yeah.
Were you into that game, Casey?
I love Shadow.
Oh, awesome.
It was one of my favorite games. I was so excited when they announced this, even though if I've already bought it twice and played through it twice. I'm totally down to play that game again.
Yeah,
I think it's a masterpiece.
I agree.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
That's another one where I'm interested to see how modern audiences interact with that game, because it is such a just a completely empty open world. It is I have always called it like a sandbox with no sand. Like there's nothing in that world but the colossi or colossuses, and you just go and hunt them down, and then you kill them, and that's it. There's no there's some lizards and there's like a bird here and there, but other than that, like there isn't really a ton of stuff to do, or there aren't townsfolk to interact with. Like especially coming off of something like Horizon, Breath of the Wild, where you can like light the environment on fire. Yeah.
Well, they never went out and they weren't like, oh, it's a living, breathing world. They were just kind of like, what is this?
This is a forbidden land.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like that. Grab the man's back hair and stab him in the neck.
That's why I'm so excited to see what people think of it, because it's fascinating playing it now, like in a after like Horizon, after all these open world games. Like I still we played a demo of it. Like I like the waypoint system, like shining light towards something basically, and like figuring out where you need to go is like, that's really cool and that's genuinely innovative. But then you put that up against that feeling of like, oh, I'm so isolated.
Well, that's why it's so difficult when we put together our lists of like the best games of all time. We're like the 10 best the PlayStation games of all time. Like, are you counting the criteria of the impact that game had when it launched, or how playable it is in 2018? Like, you take away any remake of Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is absolutely like one of the best PlayStation games of all time. Would I tell you to play it in 2018? Probably not.
I still tell people to play Shadow of the Colossus now.
Right,
it's
right.
one of those games where I was like, I want you to play this game. If you've never played it, I want to see how good you are at it.
And that's why I'm excited for this, because I hope it can, to kind of both of your points, I hope it can maintain the magic, but also feel more accessible for someone now.
I'll say from what we saw at PSX, it has the best hair I've ever seen in the video game.
I was
Hands down.
watching some of the footage, and the fur
Yeah.
looks amazing.
It's crazy,
what they can do with fur on the PS4.
Also the cloth, like Wander's little like cape or whatever the heck it is, like flowing in the wind behind him is so cool looking.
Yeah, and like the skyboxes, I love them because they look like real life disappointing skies. Like I feel like most of the time when you're like, wow, there's a beautiful skybox in that game, either it's like a terrifying thunderstorm because the wizards are at it again, or it's like an amazing sunset and you're like, wow, it's great. But it never is. It's just like sort of like weird half overcast.
Yeah.
They get that thing of where it's like a summer day where it's overcast and you're like, oh, like the sun's there, I can see it, but it's not really doing much. So I'm dying to jump into that game.
But
when the game first came out, I remember being impressed that there were no loading screens.
Yeah.
Back on the PS2, no loading screens, that whole open world. It really helped with the immersion.
because there's nothing in the world. That's the secret. That is the secret to open world games. Just don't put anything in it.
But the lizards.
Yeah, except for the lizards. Those take up a lot of RAM. But yeah, for Resident Evil 2, I feel like this is ramping up for something that's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll have to wait until E3. I think it would be really mean of them to change all their social media icons and then just be like, see you in June.
I totally agree. Unless it's like out at E3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it's Capcom, not Square Enix. So if they announce something, it's probably going to come out, sooner rather than,
Yes.
Well, other than Deep
after
Down.
you finished your PhD.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember Deep Down. I was excited for that.
Yeah,
What
and
happened?
we saw it at TGS, and I don't know what happened.
Do you remember the Capcom 5?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, that's right.
Yeah, I feel like with Deep Down, Sony was like, hey, we need some stuff for our big PS4 announcement. You got that thing we said you were working on? And they were like, oh yeah, sure. Hold on a minute. And they just ran back. What do you have? Give us anything. Like, we got something about knights riding the subway. Please help. All right. Anyway, on the subject of Capcom and what they've been up to, and of course, climbing big monsters. Casey, you've been playing Monster Hunter World.
Yes.
Can you say anything about it?
I can say at the preview event I played back in November, the first 10 hours of it, I really, really loved it. I've loved Monster Hunter since 2004.
Wow.
Still love Monster Hunter. I actually brought in my save for my original Monster Hunter game in the disc today for capture. And I have over 300 hours on just that one game.
Man.
Not counting the other games that I've played up until this point.
So
holy crap.
I just really like Monster Hunter.
This is one of those series that's been like it kind of does it like much like Resident Evil or Metal Gear. It kind of fragments its audience based on where it goes because it's almost got this kind of like nomadic thing. Where
I bought a PS3 because I thought the next Monster Hunter was going to be on the PS3 along with The Last Guardian. Little did I know that never happened.
That's one of those stories like you overhear in GameStop. Like it's like a small tragedy. It's like you ended up with a great console.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
Oh no,
but
I love my PS3.
like you got in there day one for a thing that never really came together.
Yep.
Oh,
man, yeah.
So what draws you to these games? Because I know that like every time I've tried to get into them, I appreciate the hell out of them, but they're always just like one notch too obtuse for me, where they just get so deep, and that the boss battles get to be like I'm playing Bloodborne right now, and boss battles in that game can be 5-10 minutes long. They can be like 30 in this game.
Yes. So I had a little bit of a unique introduction to Monster Hunter in that I had a very good friend who introduced me to it, and he had already known a lot, and he was taught by people he met online. So I was brought in with people who had already been playing for a bit and could kind of show me the ropes of like the ins and outs of what to do. So my whole experience was a community experience. Like my first time I sat down and played it, I had someone next to me telling me like, oh, like this is the best way to do this. This is where you find the mushrooms. Oh, don't fight that. It's going to kill you. And like helping me along. And the community was amazing. And I always looked forward to come on every night and hunt giant monsters with my friends. It was something I always looked forward to. And that kind of went on to the PSP versions and the 3DS versions as well. I would just sit down and play for hours with my friends. And even though I developed carpal tunnel from the PSP and the claw grip I needed, I still played 6 hours a day.
Yeah, this comes with being a Monster Hunter. Now, obviously, this is the first time it's on PS4. Period. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
So it's been on Nintendo systems since the PSP. So Monster Hunter Freedom Unite was the last Sony Monster Hunter, and that was a long time ago.
Well, it was such a huge get for Nintendo to sort of grab that franchise and play keep away for what felt like 10 years almost.
Yeah, there was some weird spin-off on Vita. It wasn't like a main game,
right?
Something.
Oh well, they have some Palico games.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
But I don't even know if those came out here.
But you're totally right that like that thing sold so many PSPs and it was so connected to Sony in my mind, and now it's totally different.
Yeah.
Now I totally think of it as a Nintendo.
Yeah, a lot of people feel the same way.
So
I had friends who were buying 3DSs just for this game when it came out, and that was and it clicked, and I was like, oh, and these are people who aren't like regular gamers. They were like you. They'd played a ton of the earlier ones, and like they were like, I want to get back into it with something portable, and it kind of just I don't know. I kind of skipped the 3DS, so that never really ended up on my radar, and now it's like, oh hey, here's a huge AAA open world monster hunting game on the console I prefer. So how do I start? How do you get into this kind of thing?
So the new, especially this Monster Hunter, they've been getting slightly better every time, and this Monster Hunter starts, so there's 14 different weapon types. It starts you off with all 14 in your box. So you can experiment.
So that clears things up right off the bat.
Okay, it does not. Okay, how do you get into this game? First, you go out into the field and you hunt a monster. And then you come back and you look at the stuff that you carved from the monster's body and you make armor out of that monster to go fight a bigger and stronger and badder monster.
So just go out there, kill anything with one of the 14 weapons, and then come back, use its weird body meat, and then make clothes.
Do you pick the weapon based on which is the coolest, or does it?
It depends on you.
Okay. What's a good starter, like a starter?
My favorite starter weapon, so I actually started with the greatsword, but it's actually become a lot more technical in Monster Hunter World. They added a lot more moves that make it's more viable to use it in its whole capacity rather than just run up, hit it once, and run away. So now I started trying to use the sword and shield, and I really like it. It's really simple to get into. It's very versatile. You can slice things with your sword, but also bash things with your shield, so you're not limited to a single type of damage. And you can also use items with your weapon out, with no other weapon can do, so you're not being punished immediately for not knowing what to do.
Right.
And you can start a combo and roll out of it at almost any time.
So it's a lot more forgiving now.
It's incredible. That sword and shield has always been a starter weapon. That was the first weapon they ever gave you in Monster Hunter.
Because I think that's what I keep like sort of waiting for. Because I get when I the last game that came out, Jared Petty and I did a Let's Play series where we like learned how to fight, or he taught me how to fight a monster together. And again, like one of our battles was like 45 minutes long. We had to edit the video down, and I lost at the end, but I felt really accomplished because I came close to killing him. But there's so many little micro systems at play of like my character is tired, now he's hungry, now my blade is dull, and now the monster's hungry. I got to feed him while I'm kicking his ass.
Now, does it have like a tutorial? Does it do a good job of actually like holding your hand just a little bit if you're completely being thrown in here?
I thought it did the best job out of all of the Monster Hunters I have played thus far. Some of our coworkers don't feel the same way.
Well, like, not all of them have been playing it, for 10 years. Or whatever.
For weapon mechanics, it still doesn't do a good job.
Really?
It'll show you the tip of the iceberg. It gives you a page in your hunter's notes with combos, but it doesn't tell you the best way to use those combos or to use those weapons. So there's a lot of micromanagement that goes along in some of the weapons. For example, the longsword seems really simple on the outset. You press triangle 4 times, that's your combo. You press R2 to do a more powerful strike to build up a gauge. I asked one of our freelancers, Brandon Rad, to write up a tutorial on it because that's his favorite weapon, and it's 1,700 words long.
Oh my god!
So
what?
Yeah, but the thing is, all of the stuff that he mentioned is necessary to know.
Oh my god!
So, but if you want to play at an expert level, you absolutely do not have to play at that level to have fun with this game, and that's one of the reasons why I like it so much. You don't have to be technical, and if anyone is mean to you for it, like, don't talk to them.
Yeah, do they have a version of this game that's just like for dumb babies like me, like a Monster Hunter?
You don't, like I said, you don't have to be that technical with it. Start with the sword and shield. You can totally get away with button mashing and rolling out of the way.
I'm genuinely excited to play this. Like, I say this every time a Monster Hunter game comes out, but like I like everything I hear about this franchise. Like, it's so nerdy and so up my alley. I just haven't. It's never clicked, and I feel like
I was gonna say this is so you.
Yeah, that's why I came over to you today, and I was like, "Are you gonna get Monster Hunter? Because this is you, Andrew."
I really do want to play. I probably can't play it until after launch, but I want to try and get into it because, especially seeing PS4 footage, like it
so
mixes
beautiful.
Like the combat. Number one, it looks really good, and the combat almost looks like Dark Souls-ish sometimes. Yep. Like those big, like huge weapons too.
There you go, comparing things to Dark
Well,
Souls.
okay, here's the thing. I heard
not in terms of
difficulty. Comment about that.
Yeah, no, not like that. I heard that Dark Souls took inspiration from Monster Hunter.
Oh wow.
As far as like fighting very big monsters with very big weapons.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like the Dark Souls of Monster Hunter.
I'm not even doing the Dark Souls comparison like a difficulty way, but it's even just like sword and shield combat isn't something we see, like technically Zelda, but not even close. Really. Like you can't use it in that sophisticated of a way.
It can be a very punishing system. If you just attack with abandon, most of the weapons will lock you in with a combo and a monster will be able to get a shot off on you.
Yeah.
But if you know the monster, like if you've hunted it 10 times because you want a specific gem to make the specific piece of armor, which will make you better at your weapon, which I did last night until 4 a.m, you'll know the monster better and you'll be able to kill it significantly faster than when you first started the hunt. And that accomplishment feels great. The first time you go up to a monster that is giving you trouble and you beat it with your group of 3 friends is one of the best feelings you can.
And that's what I want.
Great.
That's that
feels
Bloodborne
great.
thing.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
Do you think this will click with people who, I think that's also like a thing that the Souls and Bloodborne games have, is that they are sort of like obtuse and hard to get into, but then you go talk to your friends and they're like, no, you got to do this and that.
Yeah, that's always how it is.
It's kind of more of the same of that?
You'll get in a party and we'll be doing something and someone will ask a question and be like, oh, I know the answer to that.
Now, is it really reliant on multiplayer? I know that's like a huge thing for them, but is it like, if you want to just kind of go it solo, can you?
You absolutely can play solo. So you have these guys, your palicos, and they're little
thought you meant me.
felines. No, the cat.
Not me. Oh no.
And you can customize them to look how you want and name them and give them armor and weapons. And they will come with you and play as a support role.
So you could either make friends in real life, or you could bring a cartoon cat to fight the giant Tyrannosaurus.
You can play with one other person, so you can play 2 players and then have your 2 cats with you.
Like Cat Lady.
Yeah.
So
It's actually very helpful.
I want you and everyone listening to hold me accountable that I'll be back from DICE on February 23rd. After that, like starting that Monday after, I want to start playing Monster Hunter.
All right, so tweet at Garfep, that's GARFEP, and make sure that he does the thing he said he would do.
At the last week of February, I'm going to play Monster Hunter. I promise.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get some copies of this, and I'll sink some time into it. And Casey, I want to get you back on when you can actually talk. And you're reviewing it, right?
So I'm not reviewing it.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
But
You're doing the guide?
Is Joe Scrabbles?
I'm doing the guide, and Joe Scrubbles is doing it, and I generally agree with him on everything he has to say about Monster Hunter, so I trust him.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I just wanted to say, don't feel too intimidated about getting into this game. You absolutely can do it. It's really fun. It's really rewarding, especially if you have a group of friends to do it. The online system is far and above so much better than it's ever been.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a really nice motivational message, right?
Believe in yourself, and they've improved the UI. That's awesome. So there's actually a bunch of big stuff coming out this week. Monster Hunter World is one of the big games. The other one, Dragon Ball FighterZ. Woo! Which is reviewing really well.
One woo.
I'm like, these are 2 games that have had a bunch of betas that have just coincidentally come out when I have not been anywhere near a console, so that's been cool. Yeah, I mean, it's getting like 8s and 9s across the board.
You're
Obviously,
a big Dragon Ball boy.
I am a big Dragon Ball boy. I'm totally behind on Super. I used to be like a Dragon Ball expert, and then they started a new show, and I'm like, I don't.
I stopped after Majin Buu. I just kind of like
so did
dropped
Toriyama. He had a nervous breakdown, and he was like, "Yeah, GT, go nuts, whatever."
Oh no!
That's
why it's not canon.
I'm not even a Dragon Ball guy, but I just love looking at this game.
Yeah.
It's so gorgeous.
I agree.
I mean, this feels like I think there are over 70 Dragon Ball games in existence. They've been making them forever. A lot of them are just trash and shovelware. And it's the dumbest thing in the world because like this is a show about martial arts and throwing energy blasts and people fighting really quickly. So it should be the biggest no-brainer that you just make a basic functional fighting game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the
Dragon
fact
Ball Z Budokai was my first PS2 game.
Yeah, that was
good.
Oh wow.
It was fun.
That was one of the first that was a huge one when it came out. I remember that was like kind of the peak of my like Dragon Ball fandom. And it was like at that point you had to buy like a mod chip for your PS1 and play like Dragon Ball GT, like, and you had to get like a burned copy from eBay or something and do the thing where you jam a pencil in like the disk drive to get it in there. Like it was not a good time. And then they started being like, oh hey, we're actually localizing things and releasing them. But at the same time, it was also like, hey, we can make a 3D fighter. And you're like, why? Oh, well, fine, okay. And I feel like there've been a handful of 2D games since then, but this is the first one where they're like, excuse me, why is there a Batman and Superman fighting game at EVO and not Dragon Ball? Hello? So here we get this, and it's Arc System Works, the guys who did BlazBlue. And good Lord, this game looks awesome.
Yes.
So I'm incredibly excited about getting my hands on this. Yeah, it looks great. Also, the fact that it's got a story mode that is like adding new stuff. The big thing is they added Android 21, who is a lady who wears like a cool like kind of mod dress and glasses like yours, Casey. And she's a new android, and apparently she's going to do all kinds of moves. She looks
really cool, and I like her, and I want to play her in this game.
I hope they support this, and we wind up with a gigantic like MVC level roster where it just keeps on going, and there's just random characters in there that you don't even know what to do with. You're like, oh, I'm kind of bummed they don't have Mr. Satan in there, Hercule.
Oh.
But yeah, that comes out later this week, so that's another huge big one.
That's his arc. He should totally be in there.
Yeah, right? He just comes out and does like the megaton punch or whatever, and then fakes indigestion to get out of doing the rest of the match. That's how you just throw.
It's cheating.
Yeah, it'd be great. There's another game coming out this week called Celeste. Brian, you've been playing this.
Yeah, do you guys know about this game?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Celeste, Goldfarb, I think you're going to love this game too.
I can't wait.
It's a sort of like throwback, chunky 16-bit pixel art game about sort of platforming, traversing environments, climbing, and basically reaching the top of this mountain. It's vaguely story driven in that there's cutscenes and there's characters and stuff like that, more so than say something like Meat Boy. But I will say the challenge is on par with some of the toughest stuff that you might have played towards the end of, say, something like Guacamelee. In fact, that's what this game was really evocative to me about, is sort of the air dashing and wall grabbing and double, triple jumping into, collecting and all that kind of stuff. Bringing all those moves together into this perfect synchronicity to achieve everything here is just so much fun. And it's a really hard game, but it's also one of those games where when you die on that screen, you just start again. So you don't have lives. It's like, it's punishing in the moment. And then you kind of move on to the next screen and you're good to go. The way I'm playing it right now is I'll go through each stage and just basically try to get to the end and then go back and try to get all the collectibles. And collectibles are weird things. Like there's like little coins. There's also hidden strawberries in every level. Like, yeah, it's just really, really special. And there are so many levels in this game. There's so much to do. And yeah, you can get a look at that air dash right there. That sort of vertical or that diagonal dash reminds me of like an old Castlevania game almost.
Well, and it kind of reminds me of, so this is Matt Thorson who did Towerfall.
Yeah.
And that's a game where it's obviously it's kind of simpler than this. It's a multiplayer game, but it had lots of really cool like ways to avoid people. And in that game, the thing is you're shooting arrows and you have to kind of use the space in a really smart way. I'm so excited for this. This is so up my alley.
It does a really interesting job of shifting in and out of different art styles. Like,
yeah, sure.
Overworld is like a low poly kind of 3D thing. The actual gameplay is like 8-bit, 16-bit. But
God, I would kill for it on Vita.
Yeah, it looks like it'd be great.
It's on Switch if you need it on a portable, but it looks and plays great on PS4 as well.
Yeah, I mean, Towerfall started on Ouya actually, and eventually came to pretty much literally every platform.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that. I thought it was just straight to PlayStation.
It was actually, I believe it was an Ouya exclusive.
It was,
when
it was timed exclusive.
So I'm hoping
really good.
Direct to
Good
Crackle.
job. Yeah, I didn't know.
I would love though if this came to everything because I really want to play it on Vita.
Yeah, if you're watching the video version, you can see the character just died, but then initially just you would think that'd be the end of it, but just immediately respawn, get to keep playing. That's the forgiving side of it that I think works really well. In the fact that it is so hard, right? And it does push back a little bit, but it's worth getting through. And like I said, I've been playing it in a way that I don't really go for. Oh, there's also like secret exits and stuff like that. So there's just hidden stuff all over the place.
Looks really cool.
Please check this game out. I don't really get to talk about indies enough on PS4, mostly because there's so many great AAA games all the time. But I want to get better at that this year. And this is a great game.
Brian, I want to let you keep going, but you got to shut up. We're talking about another AAA game that's coming out this week.
Sweet.
This is The Inpatient, the supermassive game. The guys who did Until Dawn and
I don't know if that's
Until
a AAA game, Max.
Rush of Blood.
It's like a AA game.
That's what I was. There's no middle ground. Well, it doesn't have pixel art, that's for sure. This is the PlayStation VR sort of prequel to Until Dawn, where you're of course the inpatient. You're a person in a mental institution, and it's spooky. There's all sorts of spooky stuff going on here. I don't know if I want to play this just because I'm like, I don't really like to put a thing on my head and then be frightened by it. Like that's not really my jam. But I do really want to give a shout out to the controls in this. I think I've talked about this before. I played it at PSX, and like we were talking a bit about how like games you forget, like GoldenEye or Resident Evil 2, it's like you remember it being really good, but the controls don't hold up. And you're like, oh, the means of actually playing this are really difficult. This is one of the most intuitive like PlayStation Move VR games I've played. I think you can play with a controller too. but just the means of like interacting with things around you, and it being sort of it uses the microphone to like you can talk and answer questions with that, and it's just sort of
it's really interesting because in terms
crazy.
of in terms of these guys making VR games that are sort of in that Until Dawn universe, Rush of Blood, which was a PSVR launch title, was one that I got like kind of a lot of mileage out of, and it was the first PSVR game or VR game period to give me that feeling of like that pit in your stomach you get when you're on a roller coaster. And I was just sitting on my couch and I'm like, how are they doing this like psychologically? But that was sort of like a lo-fi wonky carnival game about going on like haunted rides and shooting clowns in the face. And it's like it felt low budget and it worked, I think, to that degree, in that you're on a roller coaster that constantly keeps breaking and bad things keep happening. But this feels so much more polished and so much more cinematic. And I think what people sort of expect from Until Dawn.
It's also easy to look at it and be like, oh, Until Dawn's a scary slasher horror movie game and Rush of Blood is like a more carnival ride thing. But this is totally going more like psychological horror way to it. It feels it's got like almost like kind of Vision Questy, like dream sequence stuff, as opposed to like just there's a zombie or a killer or whatever. It's like very I don't know. It seems more environmental horror is what they were stressing, but still not really wild on VR horror. You know,
specifically you woke up in a mental institution VR horror.
Yeah,
like I played. I feel like every couple of months we do one of those videos here at IGN of like how scary it is, and I always keep getting funneled into these rooms where they like put a dark helmet on me, and all of a sudden I wake up in a mental asylum. I'm like, again, doing this again, but I have a feeling these guys will have a great take on it.
What about one where you have to go see your accountant, but he keeps eating all of your receipts for your like write-off?
That's scary.
He's like, oh, nom, nom, nom. You're like, no, please don't. But then you look down and you've got your hands are made of old sponges and you get all your taxes wet. Okay. That's an adult horror game. Right there.
What?
Rated M for mature.
Oh, okay. The cat fell.
Yeah. Anyway, other game out this week.
He's scared.
Yeah, it's just too much terror for Palico. The Iconoclast is game out this week. That's like a kind of 16-bit, like looks kind of Metroidvania-ish. I saw like a brief snippet of Let's Play, but I did not dig in too deep. Laws of Machine looks like kind of low-key, very what's a nice way? It looks like it was made by one person, not in the best way, but I mean, I guess there's all sorts of stuff on the PlayStation Store these days. Lost Sphere.
Yeah, I really want this game to come together. I kind of dug I Am Setsuna.
Yeah, this fixes, so like this is Tokyo RPG Factory. It's the newest kind of Square Enix RPG studio. There's a follow-up to I Am Setsuna. That one is all snow. Like the environments kind of all look the same.
Yeah, I think I realized about 8 hours into I Am Setsuna that was the only setting in the game, and I got sad. Like I was just sort of like, oh, like I play video games to escape to like creative and bold and interesting new worlds, and this is just bleak. It was just like a sad, snowy, and there's like this drifting piano music. I literally fell asleep playing that game like 4 times.
But see, like this is actually, I feel like it improves a lot of that because you might, like if you're watching the video version, there's footage right now of you can move now during battle. Like it's a little more. They kind of, I don't think it's quite 100% there yet, but they're getting better at making it a little more of like a action-y thing.
Yeah,
and it's just a really cute. It feels very old school. Like it really does feel more evocative of like.
It's very Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's their sort of root here.
Yeah, for sure. Like it does. It kind of goes back. Like there's a little bit of Final Fantasy X in there. There's a little bit of like kind of classic Square Enix stuff, and I think it's. It feels like a market improvement. What little I've played of it. I'm pretty excited to dive into it. I'm bummed because I Am Setsuna came to Vita only in Japan and then only came to eventually to Switch, but it only came to PS4 and PC here. This one again, PS4, PC, and Switch. I would love these games on Vita. Like I love my Switch, but like I don't know, I want to give. No, it's nice to play a game like this on Vita because that's actually where I played a bunch of I Am Setsuna. I played the Japanese version.
It bums me out when games like this like don't get localized and don't come to America.
Yeah,
especially like I saw the Secret of Mana collection thing like didn't come here or isn't coming here. I don't know. Like that sucks. I love those games and I'd love to try them again, especially on PS4. And
yeah, we got they released what was it? Adventures of Mana. Is it called Adventures of Mana? Whatever that unreleased one was. That came to Vita sometime last year.
Yeah,
we are getting the remaster,
the remake,
which I'm excited about. That'll be cool
for sure. I think we gave this one an okay review. I think review goes up this week. I'm still interested in trying it out because I'm like constantly itching for a sort of old school JRPG or RPG in general. Like I realize that like I really miss the sort of like leveling up and grinding in games.
Hey, what if you played Persona 5?
Don't. We went the whole
Okay.
episode.
All
Grinding.
right. All
Do you
right.
want to play some Monster Hunter?
I'm afraid. Oh, both of you. Both of you.
Don't you want to go kill an animal and bring its parts back to camp?
Well,
and be
it's
like,
actually-
what are these?
Yes, it's called
organs?
Bloodborne. I'm going to keep playing it because I love it. And
It is-
that I can level up in that game. I can kill the horse skeleton. I don't have to go to high school.
You have to ask
I
your
don't know
friends how to level up.
My friends aren't there.
It is
There's
funny
no-
that you mentioned RPGs because this last game, OKKO Let's Play Heroes, is a Cappy RPG based on a Cartoon Network show that I played in PAX and totally fell in love with. I haven't even seen the show, but it's like in lockstep with the development of the show itself, and it is just this really cute, clever RPG that has all these like I feel like you especially would dig it. It has these really funny little systems. Like one of the ways that you get like super moves or unlock new characters, you have like a binder of like trading cards, and there's just all these cute little like you are very clearly a kid.
Right.
It was super fun. I was actually really impressed by it.
I played the I believe it was like an KO beat 'em up game that came out a couple months ago, and it was like totally fine, if not very sort of repetitive. But I didn't know any of the characters because I don't watch the show, so like any of the charm of that was gone on me. Like it's like if I had played the Ninja Turtles arcade game in the '90s, and I was like, never seen the show. I don't know who these guys are.
Well, apparently,
it's just been confusing.
Apparently, like the guys who make the show they're gamers, like they're young enough that they grew up with it.
That
and I
rules.
think we're at a point where we're starting to see that with, we see this with Rick and Morty, where Justin Roiland is like hugely invested in making games.
Yeah.
I mean, to a sort of different extent, like the South Park guys actually giving a damn about making a good South Park game.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
did a good job.
Yeah,
they did twice,
I would
yeah.
love it if we got like a proper Steven Universe game, because I actually keep track of that. But like,
Well,
I think
especially
it's awesome.
this
Also,
one-
it's Cappy
It's
Games.
Cappy. That's what I was
Yeah,
going to say.
those are
Like they have proven that they're the guys. You know, like they're so good at this.
Also, once this is out, which it will be soon, they can go back to finishing Below, a
Someday.
game that isn't out yet. How long have we been talking about that game?
That was what I want to say 20. Was it 2013? Was it that long
13.
ago?
That was an
Might have been
Xbox
after that.
One exclusive. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it probably helps to shoulder the cost of a game that's been in development for 8 years to sort of go like, hey,
totally.
we'll
No,
do a
yeah,
licensed one in the middle.
Yeah, it
No, I
might have
think
been after
the
that.
lights-
It might have been a couple years later than that, but I think it's been almost that long at this
I
point.
completely forgot about that
I've
game.
seen it like so many PAXs. We've seen it so many events.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's kind of cool seeing an indie studio jump on something licensed like this. The guys who did Nog actually helped make one of the I think it was Deus Ex Go. And it's weird to be like, it's like kind of like Taika Waititi directing Thor Ragnarok. You're
Right.
like, you made like weird independent movies, and now you're doing this AAA thing.
Or what was it? The Mummy that came out.
The Mummy Demastered that was done by Way Forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
stuff happens
that'd be a
sometimes.
cool roundup to see like a bunch of great studios working on stuff that you might not understand.
Well, I mean, and even we have Crystal Dynamics making an Avengers game right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it means like great licensed stuff, then sure, let's do it.
But I mean, even just smaller stuff, like if it's going to be licensed stuff and you've only got a set budget, like give it to an indie studio.
Yeah.
You know, like, that makes a ton of sense. Now, Casey, this last game, you like Monster Hunter. What about Wild Turkey Hunter?
I think this is the game that Andrew was asking for.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. This is the one I'll be playing after Dice, just to clarify.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is a joke. This looks like something I would Photoshop. This looks like a terrible gag.
Is this actually coming out?
This is a real game. I'm not making this up. There's a
coming out this
game
week.
on PSN this week called Wild Turkey Hunter, and the blurb for it is this: come experience interactive hunting at its best, as opposed to like that passive, sit back and watch hunting that is called just it's called bird watching. It's not hunting. All right. Enjoy matching wits with America's most elusive game bird, the wild turkey. I don't know if you guys have ever encountered wild turkeys, not the whiskey, but
they will walk across your front lawn in packs of 8 and stand there. So no, not elusive. Also, they'll
think the
literally drown if it rains. So
do you know how-
matching wits with them?
Yeah.
Not that hard.
Here's actually how you build a turkey trap. If you dig a hole in the ground that has a small ramp on one side of it and you put anything over it, and then you throw like grain or something down in the hole, the turkey will walk down the ramp and then it'll go, oh, it's nighttime. And it will stay in the hole. So if you're trapped in the woods, that's how you track down America's most elusive game bird, the wild turkey.
It's a weird font too. It looks like, I don't know, like a 70s
Like a
energy
paint?
drink. Yeah.
It looks like a Photoshop I would do when I'm tired, not enthusiastic. Also, like it's like this. The picture is great. It's just this like big full plumage turkey, and there's just a crosshairs on it. Like
I'm sure someone worked very hard on this game. They're very proud of their turkey hunting simulation.
oh, I'm
Yes.
100% buying this game. We're gonna play it on Up at Noon this week, so tune in. But But yeah, that was Beyond this week. Wild Turkey Hunter.
You can also
major
hunt wild
contender.
turkey down at the local bar,
Yeah.
the old saloon.
Yeah.
Pound a few of those shots.
Not that tasty.
It's really not.
You got to get the 110 proof. It really goes down.
It's a smooth one after
Like
a
a
nice
punch
divorce.
in the neck. Anyway, that was Beyond this week. Please head over to youtube.com/IGNBeyond and subscribe to that channel and check out some of the videos we got up. That's where we're putting all of our rapid fire, our sort of off-topic questionnaires. We're doing occasional Let's Plays. And go over there and say hello. On that note, we are all on Twitter. You can find me there. I'm Max Scoville. Brian is Agent Bizzle. Andrew is Garfep. Casey, what are you?
I'm Shiny KCD.
Shiny KCD, like the Pokemon?
Yeah, like shiny Pokemon.
What is that? This is a PlayStation show, madam. Please, how dare you wear that
Sorry.
shirt?
I didn't know I was going to be here today.
And if you're going to be grabbing Monster Hunter World, you've got the guide up on IGN?
Yes, it will be up on IGN Wiki. So if you just type in IGN Monster Hunter World Wiki, that will be that guide.
And if you
Including
wanna,
the 1,700 words on the great sword.
Yes, on the longsword.
Longsword.
short story, long sword. All right, that's Beyond. Thank you all for watching or listening or whatever, and may you have a wonderful week of the games. Goodbye.
See you soon.
Bye.
So long.
Cowabunga.
You don't have
Beyond.
Happy hunting.